Welcome to Florida Education News. My name is Dr. Tony Arzente. I have the pleasure of sitting down with a St. Lucie board member and a candidate for school board at St. Lucie County, Debbie Hawley. Thanks so much for sitting down with us, Debbie.
Oh, my pleasure. Delighted to be here with you.
One of the things that we're trying to do at Florida Education News is we want to make sure that voters have the opportunity to get to know the candidates, all the candidates that are on the ballot, and we wanted to sit down with you and get a little bit of a sense of what motivated you to run for school board. Why, what moved you in the first place to get involved? Obviously, you're running for re-election, so obviously that means that there are things that you believe that you've accomplished or things that you hope to continue to change in the positive direction. Could you share a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely, be happy to do so. Thank you. I have always been involved in public schools, and especially when my sons hit the age to go to public schools. I was the PTO mom, the homeroom mom, take them on field trips, all of those things. And as I became more involved in the life of a school, I became involved in like their school advisory councils and that type of thing, and got to know how schools really run. When, as a child, when you're at school, you don't think about things like that. But as I became more involved and wondered about policy and how do the finances work, all of those sort of things. So I just really delved into it. I was fortunate enough to be able to spend a lot of time at my kids' schools and the other schools. And through that, I built a lot of relationships with different staff and even district staff as well. So much so that at some point I was invited to come on and do some mental health training with children that were maybe in the middle of a divorce with their parents, or grief, loss of a parent or grandparent, or they'd moved to the area new. So there was a lot of things that you don't really think about that kids go through. You think they're kids and they just plow through, but they don't. There's things that impact them deeply. So I became very involved in that, did a lot of workshops in all the schools with teachers and with kids in small groups. And I loved it. I just loved it. So the opportunity came about, the seat for my district was open. And so I decided, maybe this is the time for me to go forward and to really have more of an impact in the policy making, statewide and district-wide. So I did. There was a field of 7 of us, since it was an open seat that year. And I prevailed and went right back. Actually, it was called To Work now instead of, and got involved in FSBA, or Florida School Board Association. Became involved in their committees, advocacy, legislative, all of those type things. And just the more I did it, the more I liked it, and the more I saw, well, we need to do this next, and we need to do that next. And of course, the state is always giving things for us to do. So to work with other board members and our community members as well on doing what's right for St. Lucie County, because of the 67 counties, they're all different. It's not a one-size-fits-all. We all have different economic bases and populations and that sort of thing. So when I first ran, I said there was 30,000 plus reasons to run, because we had 30,000 plus students in our public schools. Now we're up to 50,000 plus reasons to run. So the quantity has definitely increased. And we're working really hard to make sure the quality of our instruction increases as well. But we've had about 18% growth in the last 10 years each year. It's a lot of students coming in. As such, we're building schools. It feels like left and right. The first years of my tenure on the board, we didn't build any new schools. A lot of refurbishing and spoofing up and all of that sort of thing. But now we're building and opening new schools, and in fact we still have 7 on the projected list for St. Lucie County, which is a lot of schools and quite expensive. You don't build schools inexpensively anymore. Not that they were ever inexpensive, but when you're talking about almost $100 million to build a high school, whoa, that's. So we're keeping up with that, and St. Lucie's just growing so fast. We're noticing some decline in enrollment, but It's growing. I mean,
The times are changing.
They are
as
indeed.
Bob
You know,
Dylan says.
I'm fourth generation in St. Lucie County, so I have seen it when it was very rural to the point where we are now, where there's just apartments and buildings and little towns
And
popping up everywhere.
And some of the things that you bring up, you know, you're a mother, you've been in schools, you've seen the change in St. Lucie County.
Yeah.
How do you think your experiences in the community, your background, contributes to the board and can continue to add value on the school board?
Well, I'm one of those very involved people in my community. I also serve completely separate from any school board activities on the New Horizons of the Treasure Coast, which is a mental health and substance abuse facility where we treat patients there. I serve as the chairperson of that board of directors because mental health is important to me. My background is in mental health. It's important to me, and I think it doesn't get the visibility it needs. I think there's still, you know, a bit of a stigma about it, that you don't want to admit that you might be having some mental health issues. So that has become one of our main goals in our public schools too, to have it more available so that kids understand, you know, it's not that there's something wrong with you, it's that maybe something happened to you that is causing these feelings you're having or these thoughts, and you need somebody you can talk to about it and get on the right path, and so that you can really focus on being a kid. And
get rid of the stigma.
Exactly. And we've worked hard to do that with our employees as well. So I have that background, active in my church, active in several different committees in the community, but all of them serve kids. That's my basis, you know.
That's the bottom line.
That's the bottom line, always has been. Yeah.
And, you know, speaking of kids, and you mentioned before about how, you know, their enrollment shifts.
Mm-hmm.
You're experiencing a lot of growth in St. Lucie County.
We are.
You guys are building schools. There are other districts that are not in the same position. Mm-hmm. You have districts that are having to close schools. They have declining enrollment. And some people, some board members across the state blame, you know, charter schools. They blame the universal voucher system, the universal scholarships for parents. But regardless of where people stand, where board members stand, every voter wants to know where do their school board members and candidates stand on the issue. Could you share a little bit about where you stand?
Absolutely. And I think that's part of what got me so involved at an early time with my children, my children actually. But I believe parents deserve a choice. They deserve to make the choice for where their children go to school, where their children go to church, where their family participates in things. In schools, that's where they spend so much of their awake moments. So you want to be at a place where you feel comfortable, and you feel comfortable with your child being there and what they're learning and what they're doing. And so I'm a huge proponent. I always was as a parent, you know, researched the schools, did all my homework to be sure they were going to go to the right place for them. And it's taken it to a new level now, kind of like on steroids with my granddaughter, because it's, I probably am over-involved at times. But I want to know that the choices that are being made for her are right for her. And I want that for every parent and grandparent out there, you know, to know that when their child goes off to school, they're at a place they want them to be, a place they can support and participate, because the parental involvement is such a huge key to public education, to any education. It's just a huge, huge key. And I applaud the parents that get involved, do what's right for their kids, because they know their kids better than anybody else. So.
Yeah, and you know, speaking of families and you know, grandparents, and a lot of people in the community in the state of Florida and across the country are struggling economically.
Yes,
there's an affordability crisis, and one of the big things that people want to know when they think about going to the ballot box is, how can my vote somehow change the future for me and my family, and the economic possibility and potential that we have. Most people don't know that school districts oversee extremely large budgets. St. Lucie County, it's more than $1 billion budget.
It is.
And how are you going to make sure, if you're reelected to the school board, how will you make sure that those dollars, those hard-earned taxpayer dollars, are working for your constituents and the people in your community?
Yeah. Well, if you're inclined to talk to any of our finance people in our district office, I'm a frequent visitor there with frequent questions because I want to be sure that we're being really good stewards of the taxpayers' money. And the areas where the need is where the dollars are going to go. Now, of course, we all know that a lot of those dollars are dictated by the state, some by the local counties. But I want to be sure that where those dollars are going to serve children. That's my number one priority. These dollars have to serve children, and they have to serve all children. So I sit on the finance committee there as involved so that I'm in the know with the things, because budgets, there's a lot of fluidity to them, you know. For instance, right now we have projections of schools that will need to be built if our growth in our county continues at the rate it's going. So you have to plan for that, because you don't put a school up overnight, you know. But our area is growing tremendously, and we've opened 3 new schools just in the last 3 years, several more on the projected board coming on. So it's tough to manage all of those dollars and to be sure that they're going to the right places. But as the district grows, the budget grows. So more oversight, more being involved with it. And we're very fortunate in St. Lucie to have a finance department that's open and willing to my frequent visits, you know, to come and ask questions and to provide backup and all, because I take my job very seriously. I love it, but I take it very seriously. And I know the financial component of it is the one where the most oversight needs to happen, so that I can tell my constituents, yeah, I'm involved in that, and this is why this amount's going here and that amount's going there, and why this is in reserves and things like, you know, that come about.
And I think every voter wants to know that there's someone at the table that's there trying to get the best deal for them and make sure that it's benefiting the whole community. Is there anything that I didn't ask you, that we didn't talk about, that you want, you know, voters and constituents in Florida to know about you and why you're running?
I say every time, you know, I'm running for the 50,000 students that are in my district, because they're what fuel me. I believe in public education, and I want them to have every opportunity available to them as they go forth. So all the new things that come on board, I mean, the landscape has changed dramatically in my time on the board, but I've grown with it. I've felt like I've made good contributions to it. St. Lucie County is my home. I'm 4th generation there. My granddaughter is now 6th generation there. So a lot invested in that community. It's home and it's family, and I feel like, you know, I have the time and I have the availability, and it's just something I really love to do, to make a difference for kids. So I keep coming back.
Well, look, thanks so much for sitting down with us. It's been a real pleasure to sit down with you.
Thank you so much.